Welcome back, everyone. Back into match number 3, Shinigami versus Strix. Last match today for Group B on day 2. How are we doing, Hunter?
You know what? I've been doing pretty good. We've had some really exciting matches, but I'm gonna be honest. I'm a little bit down right now. I have some really cool, I have kind of Overwatch League merch, a couple of cool shirts here and there, but like, I haven't been able to find something that genuinely like personifies Overwatch in this really cool way. I just haven't been able to find any merch like that anywhere.
Well, I think I know of a place. Oh yes, we're here. Atlas Fighter Standoff merchandise, specifically their Cami Tracer T-shirt. We are doing a giveaway here at Atlas Fighter Standoff, and it's super easy to enter. Exclamation point ticket in the chat. TICKET. For just you, and then you're in the pool to win it. It's such a cool design. If you've seen it in the ad breaks, super nice. I know I got. You know what? Hold on. I'm gonna throw my hat in the ring right now.
Oh, here we go.
But while I do that, we do have ourselves a match here, and it's the match we've been looking forward to for the entire day. Shikigami versus Strix. What can you tell me about these two teams?
Well, we've seen a lot of Strix already from this stream thus far, but Shikigami has also put on a heck of a display. They're also 2-0. They're still undefeated. They did, I believe, drop a map earlier on within their first match, but it ended up being kind of a close one. So we definitely know that this team does show a great level of dominance. As we can kind of see looking at the Shikigami roster, they performed really well. Wallach and Spiro going to be our DPS duo going into this one. Thunder over there on the Baptiste, we want to see if they're going to be able to match the support line over on the side of Strix, who has performed extremely well so far in these first two matches. But I think for them, and I think for all of Strix, this is going to be their toughest test so far.
Yeah, Strix has just been having that solid backline, keeping up the Symmetra and Bastion composition that they've been playing. We've seen on the side of Strix, we've seen manually just dominating on that Bastion, completely rendering all the enemies useless when it comes to that. And it is due to the other team as well, or to the other DPS, whoever is in it for that time. Symmetra, they've just been doing great plays, great rotation so far. And I'm really excited to see how Strix will continue this momentum of if they will be able to keep up with Shikigami's rotational play, and if they're going to be able to keep up that momentum of we are going to be able to out-rotate you. We are going to be able to get to the high ground first. We're going to be able to set ourselves up for victory first, and then you guys have to play around our tempo.
Yeah, and I think that's what we saw Malika try in that first map eventually, trying something different, trying to not really go for the outpace necessarily, but try to force a different pace out of Shikigami. It's something that we try to see teams do, and thus far, no one's been really that successful on it. Like we said, flashes in the pan of success, but someone needs to really lock that down, make that consistent every single fight. And if there's one team right now in this pool so far that has really shown that they can do that, it's Shikigami, but they're going to have to prove it as we're going into our first map. And our first map actually is going to be Busan, which, very similar to Oasis, has a lot of different styles to it. Something like Sanctuary, a little more wide open, a lot more poke variant. We could see that Sojourn come out a lot there, but Mecha Base, I think that's where Strix might be the most comfortable. It'll be perfect for that Reinhardt Bastion sim kind of idea, so it's a bit of a luck of the draw there, but I think we'll see a lot of unique comps going into this first map.
Yeah, and I actually expect them to go really into this Rhino Risa sim Bastion compositions, and they're going to be able to keep this here as they're going to be loading, as we are going to be loading into here onto Busan on our very first map. Both of these teams undefeated so far in this Group B. So we're going to see who's going to be able to come up on top between these two teams and see who can win between these two very historied and rivaled teams.
Exactly. Some of these players might be out for a little bit of bloodlust. We talked to the Divinity early on. We heard quite a few words from them. So I'm really excited to see what goes on between Thunder and Divinity going into this little, potentially a big Baptiste 1v1. But actually, I think Shikigami is going to change up that support line more than likely. But Strix potentially baiting something as well. We did see they ran some stuff on that second, on their attack, or on their defense on Iconwald the match before, so we know they're a little open to running some stuff, but I don't think they're going to change things up too heavily.
Yeah, and on this point specifically, getting to that center point as fast as possible is going to be priority number one. So we're going to see if Strix is going to be running as Divinity.
Interesting.
Okay, so Divinity looking to use this Kiriko as they are going to be going to Mega Room. Yep, this is the kind of safe play to kind of go around the Widowmakers, and we're going to see them postulate for this positioning as Crimson's just going to walk right into the back line.
Walked right into it, manually getting that final pick onto Graveyard. Gonna shut down that fight very quickly. You can kind of see right there Spiro trying to see if they can find some picks, eventually going to get knifed out of existence. Strix going to be taking this first fight and going to be taking the first percentage on this hold here as soon as the point unlocks, which they'll be getting right now as Shikigami. They have to try to play this a little bit faster than Strix, especially with this Genji style.
Crimson saying, I don't care about your team composition. I'm running into the back line. Crimson has just been on a tear looking and getting these picks and just running into the back line here as we see them going to rush into this Wallix.
Yeah, that was a good move, though, to keep Crimson away for the moment, but manually, they just don't miss right now. Eventually, manually finding 2 of their own. They want the 3rd. They have found it, manually finding the 3K. Strix doing a really good job holding down this corridor, and Shikigami, they might have to think about doing a different rotation this coming fight.
Yeah, they're just matching where Shikigami wants to go underneath right there so they don't get picked off from the high ground from people like Divinity here on the high ground. But again, Crimson's making all this space to make manually be able to do these pop-off moments so he can't get those triple kill, but Graveyard going to be getting a pick onto Divinity.
Yep, Divinity taken out early within that fight. You can see right now Manually and Wallix, they are both matching this very close to right now on that all charge. Avertings, though, eventually going to be picked off by Thunder. Crimson eventually dropping. They're actually going to throw the Kiriko on top of that. The Kitsune Rush going to delete the last couple of members manually, trying to escape with their lives. They're chasing a little bit. Spiro eventually finds this. They're finally going to take over the point, only giving 55% over to Strix, but Strix has a lot of tools coming up in their bank here this next fight.
Yeah, Graveyard having to use that Kiriko ult, the Kitsune Rush in order to be able to get that point right there. But we see Strix going to be coming in with basically all 5 ults into this next fight with no beat ready right off the bat from Shikigami. So it's going to be seeing if they're going to be able to play as fast or if they can build this ult right before they get popped up.
Oh no. And that's the last thing you wanted to. Wallix, they weren't able to fully use their ultimate, so they're going to be taking out both DPS on the side of Shikigami, in fact, falling. And now it's just down to Shikigami to try to stall up this point for as long as they can. Try to keep each other up in the process instead, trying to pull out, stay alive. Doing a good job of it so far. And in fact, Peace was found there at the very end, so now Shikigami might be able to take this fight a little quicker than they expected.
Yeah, but also Strix was able to...
Oh, no! Wallix takes out manually as soon as they hit the ultimate, taken out from their existence, 70% and counting for Strix. They should be able to take over this point as soon as Crimson decides to go for the ult. They found one, and in fact, they're gonna throw the blade on top of it. The grab going on top of it, going to find Crimson. A lot of balls being thrown around. Peace trying to keep things alive for Strix, but members are starting to leak back in one at a time, but it doesn't matter when Manually is still on the scene. You see 2 members still on the point, though. Shikigami eventually going to lay claim to this point. Manually gonna have to back out for the moment being. Oh, no.
Yeah, and we do see the Reinhardt swap right here. No Suzu on the side of Shikigami, and Manually's going to find another pick.
They weren't ready for it. The City Restaurant on top of it. They're one right now trying to stay alive. Graveyard keeping themselves up to a good deal right now. Spiro, it's going to come down to them on this blade coming up here. They have it ready to go. Manually getting low. He managed to headshot them. Spiro taken out of their blade. Strix gonna take over this fight, eliminating the last few members of Shikigami. And right now, it's 9% and counting. It's going to be on nobody to be able to touch this point. Aspect going over to the Doom, trying to see if they can make it happen. They're getting awfully close to doing it, but it is just not going to happen. Strix coming out on the Reinhardt, making that fight theirs, and Manually putting on a heck of a show on that first round.
Absolutely. Strix is just making the space for the Manually show. We see Crimson going off the bat on that Junker Queen, just making it so that that Shikigami cannot walk forward, and Manually is just able to free fire right into the back line. This is why I like Overwatch, man. It's just something like this. But we do see Shikigami Wallix onto the Widowmaker as they seem to be going for this Sigma composition. So we're seeing something right here pre-nerf to Iliadi right here on this Baptiste Iliadi comp. So this is going to be the first Iliadi matchup here. Is there going to be a mirror potentially for here? For Bison Sigma here. Let's go!
Let's go! I really like the change for Shikigami here. I think they did need to change things up a little bit. Strix, like I said, very familiar and very comfortable on that Ryan style comp. And now they're kind of forced off to a Sigma comp, which we haven't really seen them play on quite yet. So we got to see what Crimson can do on the Sigma when you don't have a big hammer slowing people down. And so now, right now, Manually and Spiro kind of shooting each other with pot shots on the right side. waiting for that point to open up before they do a full engagement. And right now, it's going to be on Strix to kind of open this up a little bit. Shikigami have found themselves in a really comfortable position, and in fact, Averni is going to be the first one taken out manually, getting those self-heals, trying to stay up for the time being. And honestly, Crimson getting extremely low is going to fall directly after. Shikigami going to open up this fight first, and I think immediately you see a difference of comfortability in these comps.
Yeah, and it seems that, you know, Strix, both teams seem to be looking at this Sigma comp as the kind of point for this point here. But again, we see Shikigami has seemed to be more comfortable on this point, as we see also Volix on the Widow, forcing Strix to completely respect sight lines that they would otherwise want to have. And so they're really limited on what kind of rotations they can be making here. And you can see that in just the way they're moving. It is not as optimal as they would want it.
Exactly. Big point right now, Divinity Graveyard right now. Graveyard significantly more all charge, 80% in counting as we speak. Divinity coming up close to that 60%. But right now, it's a big advantage for Graveyard to have it later in this fight. Manually, eventually going to be taken out on Sparrow. Being forced out of that position on the Sojourn is really showing right now, as Peace is actually the one making up for it on the Sojourn, finding the 2K of their own, turning this fight back into their favor, finding a 3K, get them the 4K. You know you want to. You see the stall coming out from the rest of Shikigami. It's not going to last long. Last member's touching, 51% going to be the amount given. Peace getting that final blow right there at the end. Peace really showing up now on their own Sojourn.
Yeah, Peace with a wonderful flank on the right side, able to take down Thunder and Wallix, making the team able to move forward. And it's just, this is what Strix needs to do. They need to be able to play these flanks. They're not going to be playing this, you know, TP rotation kind of play style. They need to be able to split up the team of Shikigami and make sure they can split the focus, as they are going to be trying to keep going on this right side.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, Sights came out. Bolson's going to come out. Peace going to be hit with it. In fact, 2 people are going to be hit with it, but there's no follow-up on either side of these right now. So these ultimates are eventually going to go to waste. And in fact, the window going to come out. Divinity eventually going to find Spiro. Still had the sun attached to them. And now this fight has fallen fully into the favor of Strix. Both teams put a lot of ults into that fight. Shikigami not going to find the value of them, though, as Strix have 48%, or coming up on that 40 and counting right now, doing a good job keeping that fight in their favor.
Yeah, but Strix having to use the wall there in order to kind of get that fight going. But they do have another 3 ults ready to go. Thunder does have his wall ready to go, and with Spiro's visor here, sorry. So they're going to be maybe essentially see if they can make use of this visor and wall here in this next fight, as they're going to need it if they want to have any chance of flipping this point.
Need to be trying to forcing some of these people on the right side out of position if you really want to make a lot of use of this visor. Because right now, Spiro's not going to be able to do a whole lot. And in fact, Peace wants to take the first attack. They found 2. They're looking for that second. They're staying placed, trying to find the second pick. They eventually are going to get rid of the pylon instead. But right now, they're already in a really bad position. Shikigami trying to stay alive to the best of their ability. You see, trying to send out the visor. It actually comes out on the side of Manually first, who has found 1 of their own, 88% counting. Spiro's the only living member on the side right now, and it's going to be really difficult for them to touch it. And in fact, anyone to touch it. And right now, I think there's nobody that's going to be able to come around and touch this point on time. Wallix is going to try. They're trying to get there as fast as they can, but they're just not going to make it in time. Shikigami not able to get there. Strix going to be taking this 2-0 in what still ended up being a pretty close format between these two teams. Again, it comes down to Strix showing their flexibility, showing that, hey, we're not just a Reinhardt team. We can play Sigma too. We can play these poke styles, and they do a really phenomenal job at it, especially when we assumed that at one point maybe they wouldn't be as strong on it. But it's a really good display for them as they're going to take this very first map to start us off here.
Absolutely. And you know, it was such a wonderful series to say. Shikigami having signs of brilliance, able to just completely outpace and outrun Strix. But again, Strix with their patience, with their discipline. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word. With their discipline, they were able to make the returns that shouldn't be possible, keep the cooldown, the essential cooldowns they need in order to win fights, and ultimately just execute very tight and clean team comp and fights.
Yep, and we've seen that through Strix all day so far. And each one of their maps, that's what they are displaying. And I brought up before this that Shikigami was going to be their toughest test. And they certainly were on that first map. I genuinely believe that. They came very close to winning that first map for a good time. It's a lot of these clutch plays that come up from Manually. And in fact, we saw it there from a couple other members as kind of things continued on. Because while I think Divinity was a little more silent than what we are used to, more than we would like to see, I think it was kind of on the side of snow, or not snow, peace that actually came out more and made something happen on that sojourn, especially on that first point, or that second point.
Yeah, and so, it really in the first point, it really showed that they don't need to have these sim TPs or these Lucios in order to do these rotations, but we see the fundamentals on the side of Strix is just so well executed, and they're such a well practiced, well scrimmed team that they're able to just move together as one unit, be able to independently do the things they need to. As we are going to be going to King Row for the second map here.
Yeah, and this plays very heavily into the Strix style that we know and love, that Reinhardt, Bastion, Sim composition. Very likely we're going to still see more of that. It really comes down to what Shikigami wants to do against that. I don't think they really want to fully match it. I think there's a good chance that they decide to go for an Orisa style instead, especially if they're going to be defending first. We don't know that quite yet, but if they do, then I think Orisa's a really good character to be able to hold onto that. We saw it earlier back when Malika wanted to hold a certain way on their defense over on Midtown, or not Midtown, but they wanted to hold a very similar way. Didn't quite work out, but I think what Shikigami has shown, I think it's something they could potentially accomplish. It's just going to come down to that pacing, because Strix just forced their way in like they have in almost every other fight. That's what we're looking to see.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to King's Row, we are going to be seeing that Bastion Sim Brian comp, right? And Shikigami, in their previous sets, have been showing their proficiency on this composition. So, yes, they weren't playing that on this map, and they were playing things like the Zarya and weren't expecting the Junker Queen. So maybe they were caught off guard, and they kind of just let that snowball. So if I were on Shikigami, it's like, okay, that's control. Control's very chaotic, very much of the brawl. But now we're getting into a more refined, more slow pace kind of game style with hybrid on King's Row. So I'm expecting them to see. So I wouldn't count Shikigami out just yet. And I'm really curious to see how they're going to match Strix's discipline on this composition here. Or we might get something completely different. Who knows? But on to map number 2 here for the last match here for Group B on day number 2 here.
Yep, we're going to see what they come out here with, as we're going to be revealing the characters here in a moment. And right now, I'm sure they're cooking on the side of Strix, but Shikigami instead trying to go over to the Zarya style. We did see this before in the last couple of their matches. They do prefer a bit of a Zarya style. Spiro going to be over on that Genji. So they open themselves up to quite a different opportunities. A lot of those bubbles are going to go on to Spiro more than likely, especially when they eventually clock in that blade. And honestly, it's going to come down to somebody like Avertings to be able to keep Spiro off of them. Those boobs were really good trying to force out solo, especially when they were trying to advance on the team. We saw that quite a bit. So that's going to be what we're really going to be looking for going into this map, as we're to see how comfortable Strix is, as they almost certainly are going to go over to that Reinhardt, right?
I would hope so, but Strix, I've seen them cook with it, and we're running.
They did that to us personally. That was a personal thing they just did to us. How dare they?
Well played.
GG.
but again, here it is. It's going to be that Sim Bastion TP play here, and they're going to try to get some high ground positioning here.
Yep, as right now Shikigami, you see Wallach's holding out of that high ground for the moment, eventually going to have to slide away, as the TP is going to force them off, and in fact, it's going to force the drop in. Spiro's in a really bad position. You hear the deflect coming out, but that bubble is going to keep them alive for the moment, forcing out the immortality field from Strix as well. Shikigami doing a good job getting out of there in that situation. Spiro right now trying to find some people out of their comfortability right now. And in fact, Divinity is going to be the first to fall. Spiro, though, manages to find manually out of that position right there. A good dash. Going to tie things up here. It's 3-3 right now, but Strix is going to have that advantage right now with the ults. We see the dash come through. That Shadow Dash managing to almost find one. Getting people extremely low. Piece is one right now. They're trying to find the follow-up, but the members of Strix are going to be able to keep themselves alive. Thunder going to be that last to fall on that. Shikigami not likely to be able to touch this point and engage, so Strix is going to end up winning this fight, which ended up being, honestly, a bit sloppy in comparison. Shikigami doing a good job of evading a lot of the damage, but still, Strix win it in that first fight.
Yeah, and Shikigami played that very well when that TP came in. They kind of gave up that high ground, sure, but they did keep alive, and they were just playing their life. And Solo and Spiro were able to just do their dash plays, and here's the TP play.
Yeah, the TP play, the deflect is forced out very early. Divinity does have that window. They're going to throw it down on top of that. They're investing a lot in this fight, and that's the 2K with the nade right there. Manually deleting Vollex and Graveyard off the map. Thunder does manage to find that final blow onto Crimson, but this fight is more than over. Strix are going to keep this payload going, only using the window during that fight, so still a lot going to be available to them coming up on this next one.
Yeah, Bastion Grenade with Window is not okay damage. It is very much not okay damage. But now we see Strix going to be having almost 4 ultimates coming into here, and looking at the side of Shikigami, they really have the answer only with Thunder, but after that, they might try to be following up with Blade, so I'm curious to see how they're going to be playing this next set of ults, as this is going to be very crucial. You see Spiro going on the flank here, maybe trying to open with Blade.
It's down to Averting to be able to have this beat ready to go for this play. We know Spiro can make some magic happen with this Genji. It's down to what they're going to do, as they're actually going to throw out the wall first, and it is going to split people up right now. Thunder all the way over on the side, eventually going to be taken out. You no longer have the ability. You don't have the beat to be able to save you from Manually, and I don't think it matters a whole lot at this point. Manually has found 2 of their own, and a poor Solo just gonna have to force their way over to the point, and Strix is rolling through this. We saw this before back at Nightcrawler last match. They had 5 minutes going into that attack. Same thing here, 5 minutes going into this 3rd point attack, and right now they're taking complete control of this matchup now.
Solo living up to their namesake, John being the only one on point there. But here we see Strix just going onto the high ground here as they get Spiro. And they're just getting so many stagger picks that they just give the time Shikigami to reset.
Yeah, but we are going to see the window come out. Gotta get rid of that immortality field. The beat is going to come on top of that. And honestly, they might full commit just to try to make sure they find picks. They're going to use it. The beat going to come out perfectly from Averting's. Going to force that ultimate away. It does nothing. Solo just has to hold that corner for the time being, as Strix is going to get more and more percentage as things go along. Shikigami got to make something happen this next fight.
And I love what Strix is doing. Crimson is just absolutely being so oppressive, taking all of this space and letting Manually do whatever he wants. As Wallix looking at the pick of Divinity, so now not much healing's going to be on the side for Strix.
Yeah, and Wallix is not having a good time now. They find the 3K, as a matter of fact. Manually doesn't want to die to anybody, but Spiro is not going to give them that luxury. And now Shikigami trying this different style on the Hanzo. Wallix already has his ultimate ready to go.
Oh. Getting 3 picks there, a lot of headshot, dink, dink, dink. Gonna be building up that ult really fast, as the Shimada brothers gonna be coming in with both their ults. No beat on the side of Strix either, so how they're going to be able to play this is gonna be really, really interesting. But Crimson, having that shatter, could turn to fight.
Yep, and you see a lot of members of Shikigami hold on these high grounds, not give the opportunity. In fact, we're to see that Dragon come through. It is going to split them a little bit on that side. Divinity going to be the first to fall after getting naded by Graveyard, as a matter of fact. As we're going to see that Blade come out, did find one of their own. And that is going to make the fight in the form of Shikigami, but they did use both DPS ultimates during that fight. Strix, they still have the mortars, they still have the shatter coming up, that wall soon as well. Strix are really coming into this with an advantage if they use these ults correctly.
Shikigami gonna have that nano as well. Could be very interesting to see keeping Solo up for a long time, or they're just gonna give it to Spiro trying to go, but they are gonna play this high ground yet again.
Yep, you're going to see that Shatters be ready to go, but they're actually going to go after Wallix first. They recognize them as the main threat. Solo has put themselves in a weird position, but you can't really push that super hard at the moment. Thunder went to go help them out, but they were caught out of position, unfortunately. And now you see Strix really just trying to put the nail in the coffin here on this attack right now. Whoa, Wallix didn't see what was coming to them. They eventually get taken out by the Fire Strike. It's down to Solo to try to find somebody on the ult, but they're not going to be able to find anything. The Solo Shatter coming through onto Spiro. It's just Thunder right now on the Kiriko, trying to cause as much of a stall as they possibly can. You see them go back into spawn for a moment, trying to commit the touches. There's more touches happening. Spiro is trying to make it back in time. You see they go over to the Widowmaker, trying to make some magic happen, but there's just not enough. There is no Fleta in the building, as Strix is going to finish with 213 in the time bank. Shikigami having a solid 3rd point defense there for a moment, but there was just so much damage done from those first 2 points that it was really hard to come back from that.
Shikigami really, pulled through, as you said, on that 3rd point, making it a lot better than what they were. At one point, Strix had a 5-minute time bank. So Shikigami was able to put up some resistance into Strix. Wallix going onto the Hanzo, being an unexpected pick, just completely picking off the entire enemy team on Strix. But Strix, again, being able to adapt, being able to say, okay, this is what's happening, this is the threat we need to be able to, and evaluating what they need to do in order to keep pushing their advantage and keep snowballing. And it's something that I really like from Strix, is the ability to recognize what their win condition is and execute on that. But despite whatever Shikigami throws their way.
Yep, and we're going to have to see this right now. Solo, I'm sure, just potentially baiting this Doomfist, baiting a lot of this. I think they will keep a very similar style. I just think they need to take these fights slightly quicker. I think they have a lot of faith in Spearow, but try to put more of those bubbles behind them, put more of that support behind them, because they definitely have shown that they can put in work. Same for Wallix. You just have to give them more of that ability to pop off like that, like Strix does with Manually, like they do with Peace. That's what we need to see going into this engagement.
And what I'm kind of worrying about here with Shikigaki's comp is just they only have the Lucio for rotations. Yes, you have Wallix who can get long-range picks, and Spearow can get a nice little dash in, but Strix can just move out of the way, as Wallix actually going to be going onto the Hanzo here as they're trying to do it. And they can't TP onto high ground like Strix did on their offensive, so they're just going to be playing straight brawl.
Wallix can get into positions where it can force the members of Strix to kind of play that corner a little bit more. As you see Strix playing hard onto this left side for the time being. The TP coming through. In fact, it's gonna go onto a weird part of the high ground where they're just not gonna be able to stop them. 2 members gone already. Solo's life is just a fleeting thought as they're taken out of this world. And right now, it's just a couple members left around the area that are going to be picked out one by one. Thunder trying to get out, eventually going to be picked off. And it's this TP that is making a very big difference for the side of Strix. Oh no, Spearow. Spearow, what are you doing?
Okay, so Spearow on... Okay, so this is actually somewhat okay, because Pharah really makes it so that a lot of the team can't do anything outside of Manually. But again, Manually, not really an issue for him in dealing with flyers. We've seen it earlier today. But I'm wondering to see if this is really a way to just kind of...
No.
disallow the rotations coming out as we see. Oh, Crimson 1 XP.
But the immortality, remember, the immortality field has a minimum damage which you can go to, but Spearow has found 2 of their own. Solo finding the follow-up. They just had to get rid of Peace, and they'll be able to take over this first point. And as I said before, that really did a good job keeping them up with the immortality field. It forced their health to pop instantly up to 150, even though it only hit for a moment. Now Shikigami coming out, and they're going to be sticking on this pharmacy for the time being, forcing Manually to go over to that Soldier 76 instead.
Yeah, and you know, Pharmacy really strong on the second point specifically as well, with all those rooftops that they can playing on. Crimson actually going on the Junker Queen, going on potentially the flank angle, almost catches out Graveyard, but not going to be so nice as the entire team's looking for this rotation. But again, Shikigami really good here, just really denying them this like rotation as you are playing that really high ground with this Pharmacy. So I'm really interested to see how they're able to continue this momentum.
They're really good rotation by Strix. You force Spearow to have to go through this little opening, and that's what they wanted. They wanted Spearow to poke through that little opening, eventually be taken out by Manually. They're going to throw Valkyrie into this fight, very likely going to throw the res onto Spearow if they have the ability to. But right now, they're just focused on keeping the other members of Shikigami alive, trying to create as much of a stall as they can going. We're going to see the come out. It's going to find one member, and it is just quickly going to be the cleanup for Shikigami. Even though they lost Spearow to begin things, they just waited on them to come back through the natural respawn. They just had the Valkyrie focus on keeping everybody else up, and that really ends up working out for them, especially when you keep Solo up long enough to throw out their own ultimate and turn that fight around.
Yeah, and Strix flipping the map constantly here, making Shikigami play in uncomfortable angles is so amazing, guys.
I don't know if I like this yet, but they don't know yet. They're going to throw the dragon to force them in onto one side. They have TP'd out, and now they're going to jump up above. They found one. They're looking for the second. The wall, oh, he's going to cut off just a bit of damage, but it comes down to if... Oh, no! Thunder being cut out right there by the Rockets. A really good shot from Manually. And honestly, if Thunder was still up, I think Shikigami could really push through this fight. But it's going to be very tough as the beat comes out. But it's not going to save Crimson. And now they just have to try to push it manually, trying to make advantage of it. But right now, it's Shikigami making this fight their own. Going to start getting more ticks here, percentage here and there. But I think Strix might be able to force one more engagement.
Yeah, and Strix swapping onto that Genji, seeing that the Symmetra is no longer going to be as useful here. I do want to point out as well that, you know, they did have to use that beat in that fight, so they no longer have access to that beat, as they are going to be opening with this wall. Yep,
and as you see, Solo going to have to rotate out for that moment being. Crimson getting slapped with a lot of those stickies right there, but they are going to have that Rampage good and ready to go. Graveyard going to send their own ultimate first, as we see come through, find 3 different members of Shikigami. Going to try to find Wallix, getting very low. Graveyard likely to follow afterwards. But right now, Solo trying to invest further in this fight. The rest comes through on Wallix. Solo finding the spear on 2 avertings. They have turned this back around. 3:30 left in the time bank. They have an opportunity to match the Strix time bank.
Yeah, Solo has just been on a tear so far right now on the Sarisa, just denying space to Strix and then getting the picks we see here. He got 3 in that last fight, and he booped off the Genji, making it so they can cap here. And so Solo putting the team on his back. Solo carry, as we do see Crimson on the D.Va now, trying to deny this high ground from Wallix here. So I'm interested to see what this will
Ends up being a really good choice for Crimson to head over to that D.Va. Instead, you aren't able to take that tank 1v1 with Solo anymore, so it is going to force them to kind of be careful going on to these high grounds. But the big ult coming up in this next fight, Spearow does have that copy ready to go at any time. Likely to go on to the D.Va. Maybe you throw it onto that Genji instead and try to match. But right now, they're just waiting for that opportunity to go in right now. In their Descendo, actually 2 ults at the same time first. The Valkyrie and the Dragon going to be coming up. Not finding anybody at the moment is going to split them up temporarily. They just have to try to keep Crimson within this mech. Going to be Spirit out of existence, still in their mech, but they have to keep them up here. It's so important. Crimson eventually going to be dropped out. You see the copy from Spearow onto the D.Va. They're going to be able to stay up for the moment being. It's going to come down to Manually, who has this ready to go. They found 1, but Peace has found 2 on the blade. They found 3 on the blade manually, helping finish things up as they bring this fight back from the brink of defeat. Shikigami throwing so much into that fight to no avail.
I mean, really well done, as we do see that there's going to be a big swap from Shikigami. But Nano Blade coming out from Strix, I just didn't see the out-off swap right there. But building that Nano really, really quickly and able to use it in conjunction with the Blade, it's just a nice skill combo. As we do see Brig, Bap coming in here, as well as Spearow going onto the Genji, as Manually almost gets picked off here. As Solo is going to be the only ult that's going to be coming here, but Avertix has that beat. So I'm wondering what Shikigami has to do here in order to push in.
You almost have to let this come through a little bit and use that beat for the engagement. But right now, that spear gonna help put down. You see the dash come through from Spearow. He's going to be taken out. Solo might have to just force people off for this point, and they're going to do that. It's gonna force people to get off for the moment. The beat going to come through just in time, but it's not going to be able to keep Solo up. Having used the bomb to keep themselves in that engagement. You want to keep them alive, but they aren't going to be able to remech. Shikigami trying to make this fight theirs. You just have to get rid of Peace. You cannot let them stay in this fight any longer. Eventually going to force out the Ana, manually trying to do what they can. But Shikigami is going to finish with 108 in that time bank. Little over that minute. Not nearly as much as Strix. But right now, you're just happy to finish this map and finish it with time.
Yeah, Shikigami, they had a little bit of a struggle at the beginning there with Strix using their TP plays in order to flip the maps, but I think Shikigami finally figured it out close to the end. Solo being able to just control the space as they want, being able to spear all of the pushes they want, forcing Strix to swap off of the pick once they went to the Flyers compositions with that Pharah, with that Echo. And so Strix having to respect that pharmacy at closer on that second point. So I'm wondering if Shikigami is going to be sticking with the Flyers like on the Echo, or if they're going to be trying to play the TP play here, as we see here, where they're going to be sticking with that Genji, potentially Wallix on the Widow to open up here, potentially get a pick. And as we see, Strix going to be going on the Ashen Sim for this defense right here. Same old for them. Let's see if Shikigami can break them open fast.
Yeah, I can't see Shikigami going back to that Flyer style. I think with Manually back over on the Bastion, it's going to be really hard to try to take control of the skies for Shikigami. I think right now, maybe you give this boost to Thunder real quick, but maybe you throw Thunder back on somebody else. Maybe you decide to match the Lucio and try to go with a certain pace. But honestly, it's going to come down a lot to... well, I've eaten my own words. They are doing it anyway.
So I like what they're doing here. They're looking to do pick-oriented, really forcing Strix, to think about more what their rotations are looking like. Because one wrong rotation, and all of a sudden they're getting bombarded by Spearow, by Wallix from multiple different angles, and now they're the one who are getting bombarded by all these angles. Wallix, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You have to respect so many angles, up, down, left, and right.
Yeah, and right now, they're doing a good job of keeping control of the sky as well. There's a lot of focus going on to Spearow and Thunder, but Wallix managed to find those picks coming through, and right now, they need to find a second one to follow things up. They're trying to find it right now, but they haven't found anybody yet, so Strix wouldn't have a good chance to re-engage here in a moment.
Yeah, and, Strix looking just to recuperate, just get the ulti team, get the TP play, going on to point.
It's good. It's a good engagement right there, but Crimson is already in a bad position. Manually has gotten low. It's down to Divinity to make something happen with this window. It's come out. Shikigami is in their last fight territory. Thunder going to be the first one to found Spearow. Not going to have any support to be able to keep them up. Graveyard just has to focus on keeping Solo up. But Graveyard is in a bad position. They are going to stay alive, but Graveyard has found the pick. They found the pick, and now Solo has to stay up. Not finding it. Spearow eventually going to fall, despite Graveyard making some magic happen down below. No one else is able to replicate that same success. 40% on the bank for Shikigami. They have a chance to win this, but it needs to be a phenomenal hold.
Absolutely. Shikigami having such a good point. I love the Pharah pick here. Again, it forces Strix to think outside of the box. It makes them having to respect all of the aerial damage that's coming in from that Pharah, so they have to look up. But also, you have Wallix on the Hanzo getting picks, and we saw Peace immediately getting picked off, and then they're being forced back with all this pressure. And Solo able to just completely hold the space that they're making with all of these picks. But Strix able to hold in till the very, very end. We're waiting for the resets, and they were able to get a nice TP play on top and just look at the picks and split up Shikigami so that they can't do anything anymore.
Strix is going to have an opportunity here that Shikigami did not have. They're going to have the opportunity to build ults over a longer period of time. That way you don't have to try to shoot them into a fight. I think they will save some of these ultimates for the potential last engagement. That is if they can't win the neutral engagement to begin with. We've seen before, they can run through very fast on this attack. And I want to see what style they do. I think they keep the Reinhardt. Peace is going to look for their own opening shot. Maybe find a little bit more success on it than Spearow did, but we'll have to see in a moment here.
Well, Crimson, don't do it again. They're doing it again. Okay. There it is.
We're not showing it that time. You can't fool us twice.
But yeah, so they are going to be running the same compositions they have. Peace looking for a pick there, not able to get one on the Widow. But I'm looking the Peace going to be TPing again on that high ground, but seeing if they can catch out Wallix here.
Yep, right now Wallix, though, does have the jump to be able to get away potentially. You see the rotation eventually going to jump up on top, and it is really starting to Solo right there. They're going to force them to drop off, force a rotation instead back onto the high ground. Is going to eat away some time for them. Deflect coming through from Spearow to be able to keep them up. And right now, they're just going to try to run down the members of Shikigami off of this high ground and doing a really good job of it so far. The second TP coming through, trying to catch Graveyard out. Graveyard trying to rotate out, doing a really good job of doing so. The Spear actually going to keep Crimson from hitting that pin as well. But right now, they are accumulating that percentage. You have to eventually get on this point. They're going to come up and they're going to rotate. Wallix is going to be taken out. They had a lot of damage, and in fact, manually falls from the fact that they had all that damage. And right now, Crimson has this map flipped around. It's 4-4 still. Shikigami, though, losing Thunder. Your main source of healing is being taken away. Wallix heading over to the Tracer, trying to make it back in time for this engagement. The TP going to bring it out for the moment. Going in for the pin. Not finding anything yet, but the follow-up on the Graveyard eventually hitting. You see right now, trying to go for the Blade. Spearow not finding anybody yet. They have to grab that Mega to try to stay up, and it is on their shoulders to bring this back from the brink of defeat. But Strix, they are too good. They have held this too well. Spearow used their deflect to try to live, but there is nothing for them left as Strix will go undefeated on the day, 3-0, not dropping a single map.
Wow. I mean, that's really the only word going through my head right now. Strix adaptation to Shikigami 2-0ing everyone that they've come up against today. And it's just been, and it shows why right here. They were able to just out-rotate Shikigami here all throughout the match through their sim TPs, through their Lucio's beam, through their great fundamentals. They just were able to just completely out-rotate, completely out-cool down, and just essentially outplay all teams today, and no different with Shikigami.
Yeah, and we saw for a good time, Shikigami kind of had something cooking a little bit. They made something work. They figured out how to rotate out of these TPs. And while temporarily that ended up working out really well, what potentially you don't account for is that Strix just kept with rotation. Solo booped him off of that high ground on the first TP. They immediately, as a group, as if it was just without a second thought, quickly rotated back up on the high ground and forced people off. And it's that ability to adapt so quickly to just re-rotate, to set up a different TP somewhere else, and just keep the pressure on that has made Strix so well, not only in this series, but all day. That's the reason why they have not dropped a single map.
Yeah, and I couldn't have said it better any of myself, and Strix just able to just, no matter what composition they were fighting, Flyers, Doomfist, other symmetric compositions, Orisa compositions, or Zarya compositions, it did not matter what they faced. They were able to adapt their own playstyle to that and just completely find one weakness and exploit it.
Yep, exactly. You have to give that credit over to Shikigami as well, who You know, they tried the pharmacy. We looked at it. We realized how the match before went, so we had a slight amount of PTSD, but ended up working really well for them, like extremely well for them for a really long time. You had to force manually over on the soldier, who seemed a lot more comfortable on something like a Bastion or a Sojourn, and I think it really worked out well for them. But it just could only work for so long. Once you are comfortable against a certain comp and how it's played, you figure out ways to work around it. And Strix, the team that they are, they found a way to work around it, and that's why they come out 2-0 off of this series.
Yep. And again, congratulations to Strix and Shikigami. Thank you so much for playing. Quick reminder to everyone, do not remember to do !ticket in the chat for the Cami t-shirt giveaway. It is absolutely free. It is just 6 letters to type out for your chance to be able to win such an amazing art piece for you and Overwatch history lore right here. So make sure you do !ticket for and join the giveaway. Are going to be going on a break right here before we go back into an interview. Stay tuned.
Atlas Fighters